Good afternoon, everyone. This is Diggs, and today we're going to be taking a look at Frostpunk. It's a game I've recently revisited because the developers are constantly adding different updates and changing the game as time has gone by. Now, this will be a review of the game. It is a game that I have played previously. I have beaten all of the scenarios. I've dabbled in endless mode, and we'll be first going over what the game offers before diving into some gameplay and showing you guys what the core mechanics are about and how we're going to go through this game. Now, the first thing I have to say about this game before we even get in is that the music is beautiful, and you can hear it in the background, and you can hear and see the feeling of this game as you're playing it. There's really no way for me to describe for you how epic it feels when you have the music kick in when the storm is raging and you are just trying to make your people survive. Now, there are a couple different modes here. Endless mode is actually something that was added later, but there are 4 primary scenarios that we need to look at. And each of these scenarios, you might be thinking right away, oh, okay, like there's not much content to this game. There's 4 scenarios in an endless mode. What else is there? But the meat and potatoes is really in these scenarios, and each of these scenarios can be drawn out for 35 plus days, can be played different ways, and have different challenges and ways to approach them. I would say I probably spent about 5 to 10 hours on each scenario, and actually learning the game and playing the first scenario probably took me about 20 hours. So no, this is not going to be a game that gets you those 200 hours of gameplay, but if you're looking for something to just suck you in over the weekend and kind of escape from reality and lose 8 hours of your life, this is that game, especially when you first jump into it. Now, each scenario does have a customization feature where you can either make the game easier, harder, or more difficult. You can make it harder in terms of people's needs, economy, weather, society's attitude. There is a quote-unquote survivor mode or Iron Man mode where you'll have to survive against quote-unquote all odds. There's no active pause, and the game will be very difficult, and your progress will be saved on exit only, which for those of you who like a more difficult content, they have provided that. Now, the first scenario is all about preparing for the storm. The second scenario is all about preparing and protecting some seed silos. The third scenario is all about bringing tons of people into your city and keeping them all alive. And the fourth scenario was a added on scenario, so this did not come out at launch. And this was a scenario that is all about the original city. So the first scenario, Winter Home's ruins that you discover, and this is all about what happened to Winter Home and what happened to the people there. And I will say, storytelling wise, the fall of Winter Home was very good. Now, in terms of the content that the developers added, they did add endless mode, and endless mode is exactly what it sounds like. You have 2 different modes. So you have the survivalists, and then you have the serenity for people who are more for the builders and more for just enjoying building up their city and making it the way they want to make it. All right, well, we are not going to keep you guys waiting, and we're going to go ahead and hop into the story here at day, it says 26, but it's going to be day 24, and we'll be looking at the gameplay. All right, everyone. Well, we are hopping in here, and welcome to our city. You guys are going to notice, first of all, of course, that the generator is in the city. This is the very first scenario. So you're going to be seeing basically 24 days worth of gameplay. This was a save game that I had from one of my earlier beginner playthroughs of the game. So you're going to see I've made some rookie mistakes here, which we'll jump into in a little bit. But this will give you a good idea of what you're going to experience your first couple times in and how the game is going to go for you. So of course we have the generator here, and managing your heat is one of the most important things in this game. The storm is coming, and you are trying to protect your people from the harshness of the weather. So we do have a temperature overlay here where you can see all of the heaters that I have on and all of the other side devices that I have here, keeping our people warm and happy, even though a lot of them are getting sick right now. Now, there are a couple tech tree options that will help you with your generator, and we'll jump into those in just a minute. You can see here that there are also different levels that I can have the generator running at. So you saw everyone was running pretty hot, so maybe shifting it down to level 2 for a little bit. If we are going to get really cold, we might want to kick it into overdrive to keep people warm. And keeping that constant eye on the temperature is important. You can see up here, I have a calendar function, and it tells me when the temperature is going to drop and when to be prepared for that. People do get sick and injured when the temperature drops, and the goal of this game is to last until you get a certain amount of the way through the quantity of days, until either the big storm, you survive the big storm, or you protect the seeds once the storm is through. So that is essentially the goal of this game. And to do that, you're going to have a balancing of resources. Up here, you're going to see I have coal, wood, steel, steam cores, raw food, cooked food rations, and bodies. Now, coal is used for the generator here, and it is a constant fear and a constant resource that you're going to want to have. Wood is used mostly in the construction of buildings and upgrades of tech trees. Steel is used in construction of buildings, and of course in some tech trees as well. And then you have steam cores. Now, steam cores are one of the more unique resources in this game because they are very limited and they can do a lot of things. So you see these automations here. It is possible to get automations in these games, and each automation requires a steam core. And you can see that one, they're hopping down onto these buildings to work them as people are leaving, because the automations work 24 hours a day for you. And steam cores are also used in, for example, the industrial hothouse, which helps produce food, and in a lot of the other mining and resource producing buildings. So a lot of this game you're going to feel right away is the strain on resources, the need to have more resources, and increasing the capability and effectiveness of acquiring those. Looking at our city, there are some things you'll see here around the red banners that I have, and that's because there are basically two separate tech trees. One is a technology tech tree and the other is a law tech tree. And while the technology focuses more on resource gathering and resource harvesting, like we've talked about, the laws really help in people management, which is just as important, since you can see I have 571 people here. Now, the laws tie almost immediately to the two stats that you're going to see down here. And right now it's discontent, and then you can see I have obedience as well. Now, because of the laws that I placed, this is obedience, but normally it would be hope. So balancing those two stats are going to be important as you proceed through the game. Hopping into the Book of Laws, I can actually show you our law tech tree. So we have adaptation. Now, adaptation is like the core laws. These are things that no matter what branch you take, you can always acquire these, and they are basically like foundational laws that you're going to need to survive. So this would include child labor, emergency shift, extended shift, radical treatment, organ transplants, all of these basic things. And once you get to a certain point in the game, you're going to be balancing hope, and you're going to be balancing discontent here. You'll get a choice, and your choice is to pursue the path of purpose or the path of faith. And these are two different law tech trees. I have found pursuing purpose makes the game significantly easier for me. It just has getting rid of hope. Hope is such a difficult stat to manage that it's easier just to burn through the purpose tree, and then you can get to New Order, which removes the need for hope and gives you obedience, where you never have to worry about the hope stat again. Now, of course, if you went down the faith branch, you would never have to worry about discontent again because you would only be managing hope. So the laws affect your people, and they make it so that you can have children in the workforce, which you see here. If I didn't have children in the workforce, that would be 121 workers that my city could have that it doesn't have. And these laws can set you up for success or set you up to survive. There's a law in adaptation which allows you to add sawdust to your food so that you can draw out your food supplies in case you are running out of food. You can offer extra rations for the ill. You can have a fighting arena. You can have a care house so that you don't have to kill those that are terminally ill. So in terms of people management, that's really where the laws come in. Now, the other tech tree focuses a lot more on resources, even though some of those laws did focus on food and resources. And that's right over here. And this tech tree in this game is very extensive. You're going to see here that we have heating, exploration and industry, resources, food, health, and shelter. Now let's just hop into heating. You're going to see that I don't have everything upgraded, and I'm on day 24. Each campaign lasts maybe 30 to 35 days at max. And this is with me researching full-time and prioritizing my upgrades. Now, this is not one of those games where you are going to be able to upgrade every single tech tree in a single playthrough. You're going to have to be specific if you want to win. And you're going to want to be purposeful with your upgrades. Now with heating, you can see here that I have, for example, the power upgrade, right? So I can upgrade my power. It multiplies coal consumption. I can improve the range so that the closer people are to my generator's range, the more warmth they're going to have. I can have heaters, overdrive couplings, generator efficiency, and efficiency 2. Now, this is something when I was talking earlier about how I made some rookie mistakes in this game. And they're mistakes that, looking back on this game, I should have understood that this is a game about conserving resources. And instead of jumping to generator power upgrade 3, I should have gone for the efficiency upgrades. Because if I am going to be playing this game for another 30 days, right? It makes sense that these upgrades are more valuable the earlier you get them in the game than the later game. So if this upgrade burns 10% less coal and I burn 30,000 coal throughout the game, that's 3,000 coal that I could have at the end of the game, which would help me push through the final storm. So these are just one of the few things that you learn while you're playing the game that you realize, okay, maybe I can take a different tech tree path this round. Now, it's also important that you decide which of these to start first. And for me, exploration, I learned, was a priority. And you'll see here the first thing you can learn is the beacon. Now, the beacon allows you to get scouts. And the beacon here, you can see it's shooting up here, gives me scouts. And it takes me to almost like a mini game, which is the scout menu. And you can see here I have different places that I can send them. And I have this area up here, which is mostly explored. You can see the storms coming in the background. And then I have these areas which are still available for me to go explore. So I have raiding parties. I send them out. It's going to take a couple hours for them to go there. That's great. Of course, that's going to happen. But the earlier you get these in the game, the more strategic your advantage is, because each of these areas contains people, items, things that can benefit you. And if you aren't out there gathering things early, you're going to lose access to visiting all of these things. As soon as the storm is creeping in here, these objectives are going to be cut off from the rest of the world. You are not going to be able to access them, and you're not going to be able to continue in your gameplay. Or, well, I mean, you will be able to continue in your gameplay, but you won't be able to get the bonus items that these have. So a lot of people make the mistake when they first start playing to not create their scouts first. And of course, as you progress, these things unlock more and more as you're playing through. You can discover things like Tesla City up here, which is a resource station where you can send backpacking people who are right now, you can see one's bringing wood and one's bringing steam cores. And the earlier you find those in this game, the more steam cores you're going to have, which means the more automations and advanced buildings you're going to be able to build. And in a game like this, where resource management is everything, if you don't build that exploration immediately, you're handicapping yourself. You have to think about the long game. You have to think about efficiency. The game becomes about surviving the next storm that's coming with the minimum amount of heat in order to give you the most benefit going forward. And that's different than a lot of people think when they look at games currently, because a lot of people think, okay, well, surely the biggest focus for me should be surviving the storm, upgrading my tech tree, focusing on immediately making sure I'm warm for this storm. And that's not necessarily true. That's not the best option. It could lead to overextending yourself, and then in the next storm, you have no coal and you're gonna die. Now, while we're up here looking in the tech tree, let's talk about resources and resource management, because as we've talked about, this game is all about the resource management, and you're gonna have to make these decisions when you jump in on whether you want to start with heating, exploration, resource gathering. For example, some missions, faster gathering might be important in the beginning. Maybe there's a big storm coming in the beginning, and instead of getting your exploration beacon, you need to get fast gathering in order to gather all of the destruction that's around you. You're gonna have to keep in mind that there are multiple ways to gather resources as well. The sawmill and the wall drill are important examples of that. You can see over here that there are wood resources scattered around, and that this sawmill here gathers all of the resources within an allotted area. You can see I can staff people to work here, but there would be no point in that because there is no wood around that area to gather. So that might be great in an early game, but again, in the long run, I might need to get a steam wall drill, which will produce a certain amount of a certain amount of wood every day. You can see up here that it's full, which is great. I should probably build another resource depot for that. But it's these types of things that you need to think about in order to survive when the big storm does come. Now, besides all of the resource management, you also have food, health, and shelter, because you need to be able to protect your people, you need to be able to gather food, cook food, and you need to insulate them from the cold. So this is, again, where that prioritization comes in, where it would be great if I just wanted to upgrade, boom, boom, get house insulation. Yes, let's do it. But house insulation might not be what I need to survive the storm. If I don't need this to survive the storm, why don't I just work on getting boosted scout sleds to benefit me later? So there's all of these things you're going to need that depend on how you want to prioritize the gameplay and how you want to dive into it. And the complexity of each scenario changes. So in some missions, you're going to want to get the beacon first. In other missions, you're going to want to get the factory first, because the factory, let's say you have an abundance of steam cores, not enough people. Well, great. Then you can make automations. The gameplay style is going to shift, and you're going to be able to staff your building still, but this time it's going to be with automations and not necessarily with people. So that's how they tend to change up the gameplay, and it becomes really interesting depending on the gameplay you're playing, because in some maps order is the preferred style of gameplay, and in some maps faith is the preferred style of gameplay, and you're gonna have a great time figuring out how to survive that, how to move through that, and how to get through all of this content. And you can see here, there's of course economy view. You can see how efficient you're being. There's people management. You can see here, when I was talking about how I made some mistakes in this playthrough, you can see that I have people here who are idle. I have 187 idle people, and that's because I didn't prepare for all of this to happen. I wasn't prepared to get all of these people in here, all of these refugees, so I don't necessarily have the infrastructure in order to support all of them. So I'm feeding them, I'm taking care of them, but I don't even have places for them to work, and I should have done something about that earlier in the game. So this playthrough, I'm probably gonna die. And you can see up here now, okay, our people are done. So we're going to come out here and you can see, all right, there's explorers, there's survivors here. Let's explore it. And it's going to give me a choice. I can leave them to their fate, but something might die, or they might travel, like they might try to make it to my city and they might die, or I could bring them to our city. So now this unit is going to be bringing more people back to me. And then this one finds more survivors, going to bring them back to me, mostly children and engineers. And so now I have another 30 people coming back, which I don't have the infrastructure to support. I could say build something, right? I could build like a care house, which, by the way, the building system in this game is phenomenal. You can see here it has the heated zones listed, and it seems to make sense as you're building it. But again, this was a mistake I made in this game, which I learned from in the future, and which really, you know, as bad as it sounds, really learned from and applied to in my future playthroughs. All right, everyone. Well, we do eventually have to get to and ask the question, is this game worth playing, and did I enjoy it? Well, for right now, I have to say, of course, the reason I'm doing this video is because I enjoyed it so much and I want to share it with you guys. But in order to answer the question for whether you would enjoy it, I would have to ask if you're someone who enjoys difficult, challenging strategy gameplay and who enjoys sort of a robust, repeated gameplay experience. The one thing that kept me coming back also is that feeling of this game, right? So this is a game that you're going to get and you're going to play for 3 days straight, and the music, when something start happening, you can see it's starting to get colder and the music's starting to kick up now. It becomes really dramatic and you become really invested in keeping your people alive. You can see here people are starting to freeze and I have to make the decision, how am I going to keep them warm? Well, I'm going to kick everything into overdrive, and this is what's going to happen is I'm going to have to figure out, okay, do I run the generator until it blows up in overdrive for the next 2 days in order to keep everybody warm? Or do I maybe let some of them die? You can see this generator timer is slowly rising, right? The stress level is going to blow if I don't stop it in time. So this game is a game that keeps you on the edge. It's a game where if you have the time to invest in it, it's going to reward you. It's not like modern games. It's an indie game that really has its own feeling, has its own unique vibes, and really you're going to enjoy it if you play through it. Well, you guys, thanks for watching our video, and please do remember to leave a like and subscribe. And I would really love to hear from you guys if you want to leave some comments in the channel here, what you guys think of these videos, what else you'd like to hear about, and have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye.